When the Moon Split, Part 2. Lineage. The Prophet's lineage is called Hashmi after his great grandfather Hashim. Hashim assumed the position of host to the pilgrims, a privilege which, after him, was transferred to his brother Muttalib. After Muttalib's death, the progeny of Hashim reclaimed this privilege and retained it until the advent of Islam. Hashim was very well respected and earned the title Sayyid Batha, Chief of Batha. He was called Hashim, one who mashes something, because he used to mash pieces of bread in meat and soup and distribute it for others to eat. The Quraysh were merchants by profession, and Hashim arranged trade journeys for them to Yemen each winter and to Syria each summer. He obtained security for them from the authorities in both these countries. In Surah Quraysh, Allah reminds the Quraysh of their debt to him for these important trade expeditions. Hashim once passed by Yathrib, later known as Medina, en route to Syria, and there he married Salma bint Amr, a lady from the tribe Banu Adi bin Najjar. He halted there for a few days and then left for Syria. He passed away in Gaza, a famous city in Palestine. At the time of his departure, Salma was pregnant. She gave birth to a son whose hair had white streaks. She therefore named him Shayba, which means one with grey hair. None of Hashim's relatives in Makkah knew about the birth of Shayba. 8 years later, however, Muttalib found out about his dead brother's son and decided to bring Shayba to Makkah. When he entered Makkah with Shayba, the people thought the young boy was Muttalib's slave and referred to Shayba as Abdul Muttalib, which means Muttalib's slave. Thus, Shayba became known as Abdul Muttalib. Abdul Muttalib grew up to be a very handsome man and became a leading figure of the Quraysh tribe. He was the chieftain of the Quraysh and oversaw the tribe's trade caravans. Famous for his generosity, he was called the Generous. He gave his leftovers to the needy and even to animals and birds. For this reason, he was described as the feeder of men on earth and of beasts and birds on the mountain tops. Abdul Muttalib also had the honor of rediscovering the sacred well of Zamzam. This well had gushed forth when the infant Ismail kicked at the dry sand while his mother Hajar searched for water. The location of the well had been forgotten ever since the tribe of Jurham covered it when they were being exiled from Mecca. One night, Abdul Muttalib had a dream in which he was shown where to dig the well. When he started digging next to the Kaaba, the water of Zamzam began to flow again. It was also during Abdul Muttalib's time that the Kaaba was attacked by the Abyssinian conqueror Abraha and his men, whom the Quran refers to as the companions of the elephant. Abraha advanced with an army of 60,000 men, intent on destroying the Kaaba. By destroying the Kaaba, he hoped to divert Arab pilgrims to his church in Yemen. Abraha reached the valley of Muhassir between Muzdalifah and Mina, ready to invade Mecca. As he advanced with his elephant, the beast that had terrified all of Mecca suddenly refused to move. As for the 60,000 soldiers, Allah, in defense of his sacred house of worship, sent flocks of birds to pelt the invaders with stones. The soldiers were repulsed and they lay felled by the stones, their bodies resembling mashed corn. Apart from the miraculous intervention of Allah in defense of the Kaaba, This episode in Makkah history showed the strength of Abdul Muttalib's character. He stood up to Abraha's might in defense of his own property, unshakable in his faith that Allah would protect his sacred house, the Kaaba. Abdul Muttalib's son, Abdullah, the father of the Prophet ﷺ, was a handsome youth. He was called Dhabi, the sacrificed, in reference to the rediscovery of Zamzam. When Abdul Muttalib was digging beside the Kaaba in search of the old well, the Quraysh watched him idly. Once he began to reach wet soil, they insisted on sharing in his discovery, and they raised a great clamor. Abdul Muttalib vowed to Allah that he would sacrifice one of his 10 sons if he were allowed to uncover the well. In the end, Abdul Muttalib continued excavating and discovered the old well. Afterwards, he drew lots to determine which son he would sacrifice, and Abdullah was chosen. Abdul Muttalib took Abdullah to the Kaaba and was prepared to sacrifice him. But the Quraysh, particularly Abdullah's brothers and maternal uncles, were opposed to the sacrifice. Finally, it was decided that 100 camels should be sacrificed in his place. Hence, the Prophet ﷺ is called the descendant of the two sacrificed ones, Ismail alayhi and his own father Abdullah. Similarly, he is referred to as the descendant of the two elders held for ransom, for Ismail alayhi was ransomed for a ram and his father for 100 camels. Abdullah was married to Amina, the daughter of Wahab. Wahab was a chieftain of Banu Zahra. Shortly after the marriage, Amina became pregnant, but before she could give birth to their child, Abdullah was sent by his father to Yasrib or Syria on business. Tragically, he passed away in Yasrib on the return journey and was buried in the house of Nagba Dhabiani. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is born. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born in Shaib, Banu Hashim in Makkah. It was a Monday morning in spring, the 9th day of Rabiul Awwal. According to some sources, it was the 12th of Rabiul Awwal, 50 to 55 days after Abraha's failed attack on the Kaaba. In Arabic, the word for elephant is fil, and hence the year came to be known as Am al-Fil, the year of the elephant. In the Gregorian calendar, the date corresponds to April 22, 571 CE. While Amina was pregnant, she had a dream that a light was emitted from her lower body that illuminated the palaces of Syria. When she went into labor, Shifa bint Amr, the mother of Abdul Rahman bin Auf, served as midwife. Abdul Muttalib received the news of his grandson's birth with joy. He took the newborn to the Kaaba and invoked Allah's blessings and gave thanks. Believing his grandson would grow up to be highly praised, Abdul Muttalib named him Muhammad, which means he who is praised. In keeping with Arab tradition, he then shaved the baby's head and circumcised him on the 7th day. Afterwards, he invited his fellow Makkans to a feast. Muhammad ﷺ was first nursed by his mother and then by Ayman, his father's slave, an Abyssinian whose real name was Barakah. She embraced Islam and migrated to Medina, where she died 6 months after the Prophet's death. Foster brothers. Thuwaiba, the slave of Muhammad's uncle Abu Lahab, also nursed the infant. At that time, Thuwaiba was also nursing her own child, Masruh, as well as Hamza bin Abdul Muttalib and Abu Salama bin Abdul Asad Makhzumi. Hence, these three men became foster brothers because they were nursed at the same breast. In the care of Halima Sadiya. It was customary among the citizens of Mecca to put their newborns in the care of Bedouin women who would raise them for a couple of years in the desert. The Meccans believed that the unspoiled, rugged desert environment would make their children strong and hardy. Furthermore, an upbringing among the Bedouins ensured that the children would learn the purest form of the Arabic language spoken throughout Arabia. Abdul Muttalib was looking for one such Bedouin woman who would serve as a wet nurse and take his grandson to the desert. Some women from Banu Sa'ad bin Bakr bin Hawazin came to Mecca to offer their services to local families. Abdul Muttalib asked each of them to take his grandson Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but all of them declined the offer when they were told the child's father was dead. They felt the family of a fatherless child would not be able to reward them handsomely. Halima bint Abu Duwayb had also came to Makkah that day. While all the other Bedouin women had found children to nurse, she was not so fortunate. She saw Abdul Muttalib with an infant in his arms and took pity on the child who had been rejected by the other women. She and her husband took the infant Muhammad back to the desert. Halima was happy she was not returning empty handed. Halima and her husband, Haris bin Abdul Uzza, both belonged to the tribe of Saad bin Bakr bin Hawazin. Their children became the Prophet's foster brothers and sisters. Their names were Abdullah, Anisa, and Judama, who was better known as Shaima. Judama also nursed the Prophet ﷺ. Halima's house is unexpectedly blessed. Halima and her husband found their lives changed the moment they took Muhammad home. They had traveled to Mecca on a frail she-ass that could barely keep up with their caravan. On the return journey, however, as Halima rode with the infant in her arms, the same animal moved so swiftly that it left the caravan behind. While Muhammad ﷺ stayed with Halima's family, the house overflowed with blessings. Halima herself narrated that she brought Muhammad ﷺ to her home during a drought. Her she camel would not give a drop of milk. Halima's child would cry the whole night out of hunger. With the child so distraught, Halima and Haris found it hard to sleep at night. Things changed, however, when Halima brought Muhammad ﷺ home and placed him on her lap. Her breasts overflowed with milk so that both Muhammad and her own child drank their fill of milk and fell fast asleep. When Haris went to the she camel, he was amazed at what he saw. The she camel's udders were full of milk and ready to overflow. It gave so much milk that Halima's family was able to sleep that night on full stomachs. Halima's household suddenly appeared to be untouched by the drought. Although they lived in Deir Banu Saad, the most drought-stricken spot in the region, the family's goats would return from grazing with their stomachs full of grass and their udders bursting with milk. Husband and wife would milk their goats often, while others failed to get even a drop of milk. Halima's household continued to be blessed for the next 2 years, after which she weaned Muhammad ﷺ. Although he grew up during a great drought, he had developed into a strong, healthy child. Halima asked to keep Muhammad ﷺ longer. Every 6 months, Halima would take Muhammad ﷺ to Mecca to be with his mother and other family members. She would then return with him to Deir Banu Saad. After Muhammad ﷺ was weaned, it was time for him to go back to his family for good. When Halima took him back to his mother, she begged Amina to let her keep the boy longer because he had brought her good fortune. She pleaded he would grow stronger and healthier in the desert, far away from the frequent epidemics that raged in Mecca. Amina consented, and Halima returned home with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, happy at her extended good fortune. 2 years later, however, a strange event occurred that frightened Halima and her husband, prompting them to return Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to his family in Mecca. Muhammad's chest is opened. Anas bin Malik radiallahu anhu relates that one day as Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was playing with some children near Halima's house, Jibril alayhi salam appeared and made Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam lie down. He then opened up the boy's chest, took out his heart and extracted a lump of flesh from it, saying, "This is the portion of Satan in you." Then he put Muhammad's heart in a golden tray filled with Zamzam water, washed it, and replaced it in his chest. The other children ran to Halima in terror, crying that Muhammad had been killed. When they reached Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they found him alive, his face pale from shock. Anas radiallahu anhu later said that he saw the scar on the Prophet's chest where it had been sewn back together.